Year 11 Aboriginal Studies here at St John's in Nowra has had the opportunity this year to revisit the topic of the 1967 referendum. The students have been able to express their knowledge and understanding through the two topics that they've studied this year already, which is Aboriginality and the land, and also heritage and identity. So right now, here are some little aspects of what those students know about the 1967 referendum.
In 1967, the referendum gave the Aboriginal people the right to be included in the census.
Over 90% of people in Australia voted yes for the change in the constitution in support of Aboriginal people.
In the late 1950s, there were many changes in other countries which then brought attention to the injustices that Aboriginal people face in Australia, but they had been fighting and protesting against these injustices for a long time. In 1962, they were finally able to vote in federal elections, but they still were not included in the census. So there were still many protests and campaigns such as the Freedom Ride, which then led to the 1967 referendum where they were finally included in the census.
The 1967 referendum wasn't the first time a change was made for Aboriginal rights. In 1938 on Australia Day, it marked 150 years since the arrival of the first fleet. Aboriginal people in Sydney protested for their rights. This was the beginning of the organised Aboriginal civil rights movement.
This impact was a symbolic turning point which actually revealed a widespread desire for the Indigenous equality in Australia.
It was not until 1972 that the federal government adopted the policy of self-determination for all Aboriginal people. This change in constitution gave Aboriginal people the right to have freedom and finally be recognised of having a contribution to society. This referendum gave Aboriginal people the right to be included in a census, in which removed them from a Flora and Fauna Act.
Prior to 1967, states had their own laws for Aboriginal people. After the referendum, laws concerning Aboriginal people were made by the Commonwealth Government.